Hi, I'm Michelle, and welcome to another episode of the Michelle Pascoe Hospitality Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast. Oh, we're going to have a fun conversation. Before we hit the record button, we were chatting about some amazing restaurants down in the southern parts of the US as well as in New York. So the lady I have today that I'm chatting with is from Red Gum BBQ. It was born from a fusion of traditional family recipes and a passion for bringing people together who shared a love of low and slow barbecue. It's also a love story. How else could you explain a girl born in Florida and a boy born in Norfolk, England, owning an authentic Southern-style barbecue restaurant in Australia? Today, Melissa Goffin, a co-owner of Red Gum BBQ, joins me on the podcast. With her blend of Southern charm, a commitment to sustainability, ethical business practices, and women's advocacy, under her leadership, Red Gum BBQ became Australia's first B Corporation certified restaurant, fostering a culture of innovation while prioritising community engagement and responsible sourcing. Welcome, Melissa. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat all my favorite topics this morning.
Yes, food, women in business, teams, and building an amazing, successful business. So let's get
leadership, sustainability.
yes,
It's all there. Yes.
So tell me, Red Gum BBQ is Australia's first B Corporation certified restaurant. Can you elaborate on the steps and initiatives you implemented to achieve this certification and maintain those high sustainability standards?
Sure. So we got our B Corp certification in very early 2018. It was from a conversation when we first sort of opened our restaurant in probably early 2017 with somebody who I was sharing with all of the things that we were doing, that we buy free range and grass-fed products, that we've been doing so since 2013 when we started the business. That was one of the very first commitments that we made. And I think, even taking a step back, one of the very first commitments that my husband and I made to one another when we were talking about opening a business, and I came from a teaching background. I was working in public school education at high school, and he was a youth project officer for local government. So got to do a lot of really wonderful things for youth in the community, and then talked about sort of opening a restaurant and entering the business world. And I think we said, we had recently had our first child and wanted to create something that we would be proud of, that we could share with him and with our future family, from a place of not wanting to just line our pockets. Yes. And certainly nobody ever gets into hospitality for that reason, but for adding something that we felt was a positive contribution to the world in some way, and something that was values driven. So fast forward quite a few years later, we had some of those initial initiatives in place, which were, like I said, sort of some sustainable sourcing. We lived on this gorgeous Mornington Peninsula, which had a really vibrant wine industry, and we decided that we would support that exclusively. So not bring in any external wine, to the dismay of all of the new distributors who really wanted to kind of sell us cheap stuff from all over the place. And then working with local and independent suppliers. So prioritizing, the family-run businesses that we saw in our community, and really believing that with our dollars, we had impact, and with our success, we could support the success of the people in our community. So those were some of the early things that we were doing and thinking about. I suppose as well was how we could, and what really kind of lit my eyes up when I heard B Corp and started thinking about it for our business, was its holistic view of how it approaches those ideas of sustainability and ethical business, which is what I talk about. So it's not just that supply chain and products, but it's also how you treat your staff, and how you connect with your community, and all of those things. So the process is quite rigorous, and I think in retrospect might have been something that I would have put off probably until a calmer time. I don't know if there ever is a calm time, but we jumped through all of those hoops and we got that B Corp certification at the start of 2018. And what it did was not only gave us a way to communicate about our business values, but and also a roadmap for what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it better, because there's never a landing spot here. It is a journey to kind of improve along the way. So, yeah.
My goodness, what an amazing journey. As you said, looking back, hindsight's always that wonderful thing. Could you have done it at a later time? But then would you? I mean, trying to find that right time in business, it just never occurs. So it was probably the best to get it done, get it started. Now, making those decisions just to work with the wineries in your local area, and also fostering that whole community engagement. What has been the ongoing impact of that for those in your local community?
Um, Look, I think, yeah, going to that idea of what it did for us early on, is it really like kind of synergized in those early days as we were growing with our brand and our identity, both for our customers, for our community, and for ourselves. So we understood this as part of our DNA, and it gave us the language around how to talk about things. And I guess, your question, how did it sort of connect to community? Is that it? We just, I guess, started reaching out to our community, always kind of understanding us as a part of that broader sort of environment, that we're not just a sort of standalone entity, but we're all interconnected. And so, how could we connect to, whether it was the local schools, we sort of provide the food to our local primary schools art show every year. We have an initiative we call Helping Hams, where we give smoked hams and turkeys around Christmas time to our local support centers, to families in need. We're always connecting with whatever it is. There's a storm, like, come, get water from our place, or charge your phones, or, how can we help? So I think there's the community side of things to help, and then there's the understanding the importance of, buying local and investing in local.
Yes, which is so important. But look, let's go back where it all began. Because reading through your bio and some outlines there, on your website, there's your husband, Martin. He loves cooking a barbecue. He gets into this pit barbecue, which we've, all experienced watching television, looking at these Southerners, cooking these amazing barbecue. What was that journey like in the early years? And then to actually decide to, this is more than just a bit of fun thing I'm going to do with the family. Love to hear that part of the journey.
Sure. That's it's I don't know if it's normal or not, but we had just recently had our first baby, as I mentioned before, and I went back to work at some point and was teaching, and he was home on paternity leave because local government jobs and wonderful benefits. And he was watching a little bit too much, probably Man v Food, I think was the program at the time. And I came home, and we'd been talking for years about, like, he'd been cooking barbecue, smoking barbecue forever. When we lived in St. Kilda, just out, in the suburbs of Melbourne, we'd had backyard barbecues and invite people to the house, and they'd say, what can I bring? And we'd go, we got it. And we'd create pulled pork, give them pulled pork, and everyone didn't understand what that was. They were, this is amazing. What is this? And he was, like creating his own sort of like barbecue sauces and basting pork ribs and spending hours just loving this, probably as early as like the early 2000s, one, two, something like that. So when we started doing this and he was so passionate about it, and we were talking about how we really missed that in, as sort of all great expat stories, they bring the food with them. And really missed that in the community. There weren't any at the time barbecue restaurants around, and so we'd had lots of conversations about, wouldn't this do well? Like, Australians love meat, they love great food, they love really, beautiful cooking processes. Like, how good would this be here? And so I came home one day and from school, and he said, "I'd like to open a barbecue restaurant." And I said, "Okay, sounds like a good idea. Why not?" I think from there became the reality of, like, how do we afford to do this? We actually don't know anything about opening a restaurant. We don't know anything about business. I don't know what a P&L is. What is a cost of good? Like, all of those things, which are really big hurdles. And we got some really great advice early on from somebody in the industry who said, take it slow, do markets, learn your brands, test your products, test your customer base, like, test your willingness, like your resolve to do this, because it's hard work. It won't be easy or quick. They'll, it's really going to take a lot. And we did that over a number of years. We launched in 2013. We got some hay bales and a marquee, and we invited all of our friends to the local park and introduced our brand and our cooking. And there were a handful of them that were brave enough to tell us at the time that they thought we were crazy, but most of them have admitted it since, under the protection of, well done to you. You overcame what I thought was going to be a massive failure. So yeah, and then we did that for a number of years until we sort of became a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more bold, and went to the next one and went to the next one. And here we are. I think, it was, I think we had $10,000 in the bank of savings that we were hoping to put toward a house, but we bought a $5,000 smoker and we spent $5,000 on branding. And that was it. That was where we started. And from then we've continued to just kind of put our own finances and heart and soul on the line to take those next steps. So it's been enormously satisfying in that regard, hard and rewarding.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Melissa, because, a lot of people think, oh, starting up a restaurant, that's really, it's just everything I've always wanted. But as you said, you had a great skill set. Like, Martin was great doing all the barbecuing and being this pitmaster, but it's totally different when you've got the business side of things. And that's where we see too often businesses don't go as well or fail before they've even started, because they haven't got that resolve or that ability to be able to move from one aspect to the business to the other. So thank you for sharing that. But, good on you, for the both of you, to have the tenacity, particularly with a young child at the same time, to grow this amazing business and bring others on the journey as well. And, it's funny when you said, you had some friends that said, oh, I don't know why you're doing this, but, sometimes that comes from the heart, doesn't it? People, they don't want to see.
Oh, totally.
Yes, yeah, but it's,
Yeah, it absolutely did. And whether or not that's tenacity or, I think, like, with the wisdom of sort of, hindsight, you'd be like, wow, that was a bit maybe ridiculous. But
why not?
yeah, why not, right? All of the best decisions are made from why not.
Yeah, that's very true. So, with this, your B corporation, having that certification, how do you ensure that your suppliers align with your sustainability values, and what challenges have you faced in maintaining an ethical supply chain as the time's gone on?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really great question, and one not easily resolved. Well, I was going to say answered. I can answer it, Lee, but there's no nice and neat sort of, we do it like this and it's perfect. because supply chains are just fraught with complexity, particularly if you're talking about meat supply chains, which are shrouded in mystery for the exact reasons why they want them to be, right? Like they're set up that way so that we don't know the details of where things are coming from. Um, Really early on, it came from a basic sort of like, do I want to do business with this person? Why or why not? And trying to really hold true to that. And you know, something as simple as I've got two or three people or businesses that I can work with. They're both or they're all three giving me competitive pricing within the same range. Why do I choose one over the other? And, you know, that was not always an easy decision because oftentimes the people that are giving you the best price are not necessarily the best decision. And so, you know, I can remember some early conversations Martin and I having, and it was something as simple as like this person's going to come in and do our flooring, and we didn't get a good vibe from him for some reason. That he didn't communicate kindly. He didn't talk about his, you know, business in a way that felt really transparent. And you know, why would we go with him? Well, we need the money and he's going to be cheaper. But I don't know. I don't feel like just, okay, no, we're not going to go there. So I think Martin and I checking in with each other in the early days and challenging each other, like, why are you going to make that decision? Why are you going to go with that person? What are they offering? What are they, what do we know about how they run their business? Was really valuable and kind of, I suppose, reinforced that decision making process. And then as we went along, it got more, I suppose, embedded from a process place. So we started creating things like supplier code of conduct and outlining our priorities as a business and the things that we value and the things that we hope that our suppliers value. We ask typically, you know, once a year, maybe once every couple years, we'll send out questions to our suppliers asking for what accreditations they possess, what commitments they have to community, what things they have in place for their staff in terms of fair wages, and just ask them to provide us feedback on that. As we've grown, we've had more ability in that sort of, you know, purchasing power. We have more ability to ask those questions and to get the answers that we're looking for. And we hope then making that landscape better for others, right? So if we're all kind of setting a standard of behavior and practice, then, you know, hopefully that filters down to all of us. We've run into a lot of problems with supply chain stuff in the meat industry, as I said. I think the pork industry is a bit more transparent than the beef industry. You know, we know that the label on the box isn't necessarily having anything to do with the farm that things are coming from. You know, we have had to push back on things that we think, you know, a supplier might say, "Oh, it's grass fed. Yeah, it's just finished on grain at the end, but like, you know, sell it as grass fed." And kind of going, "No, this is what we're saying, and we need to kind of stand behind our words and then expect that you're standing behind your words." We've actually had suppliers say to us, "We'll sell you this product, but we'll give you this poster and you can put it on your wall and nobody will know the difference."
Oh my God.
And I've gone, okay, well, I know. And then you go, well, I'm not doing business with this person because they're going to be lying to us or to somebody. And you know. Yeah, I think with the cattle industry, there's a lot of everything is bought at market.
Mm.
So you've got a real lack of transparency from where the cows are coming from and how you then connect with the farm. But we have, particularly with our meat suppliers, and we're working with one at the moment, a company called Gamekeepers, who share our commitments. And if you go to the website, you'll learn a lot about how they do that. They've partnered with us on some of our initiatives across the year. So we've said we want to do this. We want to give these helping hams out. Can you help us at that? And they've agreed to that. So that's been really great. And then we ask lots of questions like, okay, talk to us about where you're getting that meat from. What is the supplier? Can we connect to the farmers? Can we visit? Can we, Martin and I took a trip to an abattoir once, which was a really confronting experience, but I felt like something I needed to know about that kind of what is that ethical journey as much as possible for the life of the animal that we're then going to participate in and serve up in the products there. So anyway, it's complicated, and we continue to kind of dig deeper into it and run into roadblocks. Yeah, it's a wonderful conversation to be having.
Yeah, it is. And I'm very values based. And that was when I'm celebrating my 30 years this week when I'm recording this. And it all started
Oh,
because
yay.
yeah, in business. And it was all started because, well, the catalyst was I had a dreadful job interview. Even though the chap offered it to me, it was closer to home, it was certainly a lot more money, but the values were just not, they were so incongruent. And apart from crying all the way home for a half an hour drive, I just said to
Oh,
myself that I will never work for anyone who does not hold the same values. And I literally started up my business the next day, and I've always held
oh,
really tight to those values. Now, I know not every one of my clients that were going to have identical values. However, they are congruent in the same as what you're doing with your clients or the people, your suppliers is when you just get that funny feeling in your tummy, Melissa, and you think, yeah, no. You may have
no.
a really nice product, but there's just something about you. And I've said that, to client or to prospective clients, have come to me and I said, oh, you know what? I think you're just doing a wonderful job. You just don't need me. Or, I'll call you, don't call me sort of thing in a really nice way. But it would just go against everything, every part of my body. And I haven't worked this hard to establish my business in 30 years like you and Martin have done, to let it just sail down the river dealing with somebody because they got maybe an okay product but a cheaper price. But somebody to like lie to you like that about a poster, I mean, literally you'd feel like picking them up and going, you know what, just yeah, get back in your car and off you go. So
Uh,
for the both of
and
you.
I think particularly there's so many things in there for me about being a woman as well. So the meat industry is really quite dominated by men, and the way that they communicate about their work and then the way that they communicate to women has so many kind of red flags for
Mm.
me personally as a woman and a sort of decent person. But um I think like as a woman, that intuition piece for us is so strong. I think we're great at it. And that listening to your body is something that I think we get better at with age. And and then to learn to trust it. So that was one of the most, I think, really like insightful experiences of business ownership for me, was to kind of tune into that, because I didn't know anything about running a business when we started, and I had to kind of learn so much so fast. But what I started doing really early on was going, this doesn't feel right. I don't know why. This is where I think we need to go, or this is what I think we need to do. And digging into that and trusting it. And it just always led me to the right place. I'm such a fan now of that process.
It's
But
your compass
yeah,
from
and
your
I think
start. Yes. Mm.
totally. And then I think in that experience that you're having of dealing with people that want to assert their views above yours. And maybe as a woman, which I think we are more inclined to do, to want to sort of please or not assert, to kind of just take on what's being given, particularly in this industry that is so dominated by men. Like, you really need to sort of push through that and go, I'm going to be unapologetic in the things that I'm wanting and asking for, and I'm going to accept this, and I'm not going to accept this. And I think there's just a lot to be said for that.
Yes. You know, a saying my father used to say was, you can, as long as you can go to bed and lay straight in bed at night, then you know you're running your business well. You're running it to what your values are, and that's absolutely key. So, however, as you know, your business has grown, Red Gum, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. And we know throughout the hospitality industry, because that's been my journey now for 3 decades, that finding employees is one thing, trying to retain them is another, particularly when you've got really strong values. So, what challenges have you faced in acquiring and retaining good team members, Melissa? And what strategies have you found most effective in attracting and retaining top talent in the hospitality industry?
Sure. So we're in a regional location, so we have added pressures of attracting and finding talent. It's really difficult to get to us. We are not served by public transportation at all. There is not a bus that drives by our workplace, and we've got a really high cost of accommodation and a lack of accommodation in our area. So we really suffer through periods of, and have suffered through periods of finding and attracting and retaining staff. So I suppose with that, we've had to get really good at and creative at sort of how we do that. One of the things that we do and have always done, but have gotten better at over the years, is to understand how to talk about our business, how to communicate about who we are and what our business values are, and try and inject that into our job as at the very outset. We talk about what you'll experience from things like a weekly regular pay that's going to come to your to your bank account every day when we say it will, that'll have it's all of its compliance stuff on it, like the real basics to leadership and training and development, to a fun and kind workplace, to time off for volunteering if you're interested. But we really try and ensure that people understand what they're coming into. And in that, we think at the very outset, we will attract a certain candidate. We have people all the time that say, I was really attracted to this role from the way that you talked about what it was like and what your business was like. Or, I've heard of your business, I know your business values, I'm really excited about that. So that's one of the most important things, that we're sort of finding like candidates, and that we're bringing people in who share our ethos. Are you all good on
Yes.
sound? Sorry.
And that's what's so important, isn't it? Because you're talking about your business and people are reading that even before you know who they are, even before that they've applied for your role. And I think, I love doing research on the, 4 generations we've now got as employees, and people are watching you, they're experiencing your business, checking it out, so to speak, before they've even applied. And it's getting back to that values piece again. It is so important for them. And particularly with Gen Z, Melissa, are you finding that they really want to hear about your story, the wisdom, not just about, oh, well, yes, this is Red Gum BBQ, but like that story you've shared with us about how Martin and you started. It's all about that wisdom piece, isn't it? That they can then share with your customers.
100%. And yes, they want the story, but they absolutely want the values.
Yes.
Like they're not going to work for you if you're not doing something that they're proud of in some way. Like they absolutely need that. I think we take this through to like our interviewing stage. We regardless of the level that you're coming in at, you will sit down and you'll have an interview. You'll get the questions in advance. You'll have 15 minutes to take down some notes because it's not an exam. We don't need you to feel like you need to answer everything on the fly. You'll get an opportunity to talk through things. There's values based questions. So, what do you do in this scenario? How do you communicate to people? Give us examples of. So, that process of finding people, I've had that many chefs come in for positions that have given feedback that they found the process really intense or different to anything they've ever experienced before. I think there's an expectation that like go in and do a sort of trial shift and you're hired because we're desperate. So that's not the case, right? It doesn't serve either of us any good to set up a situation that's not congruent or a match for us both. Like this is what we're about. We care about process. We care about authenticity and transparency and maybe that's not exactly what you come from, but if you can invest in that and you can be into it, then we can work together. So it runs throughout that sort of employee journey. I think one of the things that we do really well as well is work through difficult situations, which arise constantly. I had a meeting this morning with a senior leader in our business and a leadership coach, and some problems here and there with stuff as it comes. And rather than going down that kind of performance management path, there's a real commitment from all of us to sort of get to a better place. Well, what can we do and how can we kind of support growth and development and get things to a better place? So we're willing to kind of put our money where our mouth is and dedicate funds and resources to the development of our staff across the board.
Development is so
And
important.
and yeah, and they reward us through staying with us and giving it their all. We do, and we value that culture so much. Everybody's on board with it. They know their individual responsibility in maintaining it, and they know when someone's not pulling their weight, and they call it out. And that person either jumps on board or leaves, and we just feel, I think we all feel an enormous sense of responsibility to maintaining that culture.
And as you said, creating it is one thing, maintaining it is another. And having those that will call out that other person, knowing it's about that impact. It's very nice that, oh, well, I'll just cover for them, but you're covering up somebody who may not wish to be there. I call them skunks in the business. So it's great to see that the team call them out and that it's not just that instant, well, heads on the chopping block. It's have that discussion. What can we do? And now, do you really see yourself here? And that's the biggest question, isn't it? A lot of people may think it's the right place for them, and maybe it's not, and they may be a great person, but this isn't the role for them right at this particular time.
Absolutely.
So I
Exactly.
love that really strong process. And you're right, chefs or whoever they may be might think, oh my gosh, that was really intense. But you're doing it not to waste their time as well as yours. And you worked so hard to get that workplace culture. You just don't want to put somebody in because, oh my goodness, yes, great at a skill set, but they may have absolutely zero connection with anybody else.
Absolutely. And it comes back to that conversation earlier, even just with sort of suppliers. Like there's always an easy answer But the easy answer is not always the right answer, right? It probably more often than not isn't, which kind of sucks. But like the easy answer might be we've got a gap, we need a body to fill it, hire that person. The hard one is we have a gap, we really need that person. That person's not right for that role. We're going to let them go, or we're going to not employ them. And we're going to deal with the consequences of that gap for a little while longer until we've made the right decision, because the extended problems associated with that are much worse, right?
They
So
are. I remember, in my early days, I used to do a lot of HR consulting for, in the hospitality industry. And I used to say and then to my clients over the years, just wait, just hold off. Even if that means that you have to do more hours, for those first few months, just do that instead of putting on the wrong person. Because I felt there was a time there, and even after we had COVID, it was like, oh my goodness, we'd open up the bottom drawer, so to speak. There's a whole lot of applications, bring them up. Black pants, white shirt, and you can fog up a mirror when you go past. Beauty, we'll have you,
tick. Yeah.
Now you're going to have to deal with a problem that really you could have just waited for. But it's hard, isn't it, in business when we're trying to
Yeah. It's hard.
Hmm.
It's hard. And I don't want to say that we've never done that. Like, this is not about sort of like creating the shiny image. Like, all of these are incredibly hard moments. There are commercial realities. Like, we are all just doing the best thing that we're doing. What I'm sharing is the best practice that I believe, the things that we sort of hold ourselves to. And when we're in a space to be our best version of ourselves, this is what we're doing, and how we're delivering on things. There's some things that are black and white. We don't buy food products that say they're one thing and sell them as something else. We buy grass-fed, free-range products, no matter the pressures of the moment. We have employed people before that we don't think are great fits, but that we desperately need in that moment. And we've learned the lessons from that. And we try, 9 times out of 10, that is not happening. I want to say more than 9 times out of 10. Hopefully 99% of the time that's not happening anymore. But there is, that's also because we're in a space now at the life cycle of our business or the success of our business where we can make those choices. I know that that's really different for everybody.
Yeah. So how do you look at that approach for diversity and inclusion? Because within your workforce, as you said, you're not in an area where people are just, oh well, we'll hop on the bus or the train to get there. Do you have any specific programs or policies that you've implemented to support this?
Yeah, well, we do. We have the basics. We have a D&I policy. We have this built into our recruitment processes as well. We do things like on our HR systems, ask people to provide their proposed pronouns. We speak openly about neurodivergence and what individuals need. We really warmly welcome people that are different to us into our business and invite them to have a seat at the table, because they challenge us all the time to think about things in a different way. We celebrate Pride Month with a rainbow of balloons in our building. We talk about a welcome or acknowledgement of country at the start of all of our private events. We encourage people to share the things that they want and need from a physical or mental health perspective. And those are integrated and accepted, and there's never a challenge to that. I think we have a really diverse group of people in our business, and it is celebrated rather than looked down upon. So that's something that we really enjoy, the value that those people bring to our understanding, our acceptance, our fun. Yeah, got it all.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting piece, isn't it? Because we can look at those points that you made. Now, I was speaking to a business owner up far north Queensland, in a big regional area, and the situation, like many, is, finding the right employees and encouraging those that have retired from the industry to bring them back in to the workplace, and having that, that age of diversity as well. So it's an interesting game. Mm.
Yeah, I love that idea. We've had much older employees. I don't know what our top age is at the moment, but yeah, they bring, we do have the young people as well, as you might imagine. And there's lots of conversations about like whether somebody is Gen Z or millennial or X or boomer, and like how we all view the world and how those views um, impact our experiences, our daily lives. It's a lot of fun, actually.
It is. So now let's get back to your amazing products, and thank you so much for sharing, with my listeners about, your attraction and retention of your amazing team. The Art Home brand, including your barbecue sauces and rubs that I'm sure everybody knows about, has been a significant expansion. What were the biggest challenges you faced in scaling up food manufacturing, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we did scale, and that was, I suppose, going back into sort of like how we scaled or how we overcame those. We had this suite of products that we were really excited about, that customers were really excited about. They've existed since we started the business, but they've kind of taken multiple iterations over the years. And we made a decision during COVID to put all of our energies into that being our next sort of growth or business expansion. What we found is that we weren't able to scale within our current venue. We were working on things like sauces and rubs on days when the restaurant is closed, and we could have a bit more use of the kitchen. We've got a really enormous space, so we felt we could kind of take over parts of it, but we just found the reality of that to be too hard. So that then made that sort of second venue or that unique location to be doing this work all the more necessary. So obviously, with that, the challenges come from finding the funding and time and energy to open a new business. What was interesting as well is that as much time and energy as we've learning the hospitality industry, we sort of thought would flow really easily to the sort of food manufacturing industry. And while there are some overlaps, it's really a bit of a different space. So, huge hurdles around like what and how do you make a food label? Like, how do you ensure that that is all meeting its myriad legal obligations? How do we ensure that our products are insanely consistent every time, that we've got packaging, like God, the amount of time and woman hours for the most part, because this is the people involved in our packaging team dedicated to looking at packaging and talking about not just how it was going to be sort of beautiful or a sort of a wonderful unboxing experience and how it was going to communicate everything about our brands, but how it was also going to be sustainable. And we're currently sort of investigating food service packaging that is sustainable, and finding something that's not plastic is just almost impossible. So I think those challenges of meeting all of the different demands of this new industry have really been significant, and something that we probably underestimated. We just thought, we've got the products, there they are, we know how to make them, we know how to make them yummy, we're just going to sell them. But yeah, I think, what did we say earlier? Like, why not? Let's just do it. Which is really how I am always like, I think people in the business either enjoy that or are exhausted by it, or maybe both. But I'm like, come on, we can do that. Sure, just sell them. Yeah, that sounds hard. We'll figure it out. Let's go. So yeah, we opened our business last at the end of October. We opened our Seaford location.
Right.
So that, presented lots of new challenges and enjoyments. It's great.
And
It's
now,
definitely the next logical step for us.
yes, and now you're going into subscription boxes, road trip, and it hasn't that taken off. I remember years ago somebody said, "Oh, we'll send you a box every month." I thought, what, why would I be wanting to do that? And now it doesn't.
Yeah.
It seems to no matter what industry or what little business, it has just taken off. So how have you found that? Now that's another spoke in your wheel for your business. Mm.
Yeah, we love the subscription box. Our road trip is so much fun. So we visit once a month over a 12-month period, over a year. We visit another state in what we call and what is referred to as the Southern Barbecue Belt in the US. And in every monthly box, you'll get like a hero meat, another sort of side meat, a side dish, some sauces, other accompaniments. So we just went to Virginia and we had country ham and biscuits. So fresh made sort of like Southern style biscuits, which are the savory scone like ones, flaky, buttery. Some of our ham that's been, cured and smoked here. Shenandoah chicken, which is beautiful butterfly chicken smoked and or barbecued over coals with a gorgeous sauce. And then there's a brochure that tells you exactly everything about each of the tasting notes about each individual sort of item in the box, as well as a story about that particular region, its contribution to the food scene, its contribution to or how it came to be known as integral into this sort of story of low and slow. And then our sort of personal connections to it. So some of Martin and I's experiences of the people and places that we've visited or have, sort of connections to. I love when we go to Florida and I talk about like why we have black beans in the box and what the smoked pork is like. I love visiting Georgia and talking about, as we were just before the call, my experiences of Savannah and the wonderful food there. Yeah, it's a beautiful experience that is more than just the food inside, but it is a whole sort of journey to that place that we really love.
So how can people order these subscription boxes and learn more about you? Mm.
Yeah, so jump online. Our website is fantastic. There's a whole sort of about us section. There is a shop. I think we've got the shop accessible via, you can have two entrances. You can go into our Red Gum BBQ Red Hill location. You can go into Red Gum BBQ at home, which is where you'll find most of the things around our products and our food manufacturing and our subscription boxes. But I think the shop connects across both. And in that, you'll see a lot about us, our journey. There's a whole impact piece where you'll see the measures of how we're measuring our impact, from how much food we're composting, water that we're keeping out of, that we're reusing. Yeah, lots of stuff there to kind of play with if you're curious.
And so what's the website address?
Oh, sorry, of course, redgumbarbecue.com.au.
Perfect. Well, we'll be putting it in the show notes just so but everybody can
Cool.
have a look and enjoy. But before we finish off, apart from being this amazing co-owner of Red Gum BBQ, you're also a founder and chair of Women in Business MP. You advocate for women in leadership. What are some key policy improvements you're championing, and how do they specifically benefit women in the hospitality industry, Melissa?
Sure. So, yeah, Women in Business was something that I and a few others came up with around COVID, and it was not necessarily because of COVID. It was really sort of connecting with other female business owners and leaders in our community, and feeling frustrated by the lack of sort of support, I suppose, that we often experience from maybe a local government perspective, planning issues, like finance perspective, like whether it's payroll tax. We're in a place that's designated as metropolitan, yet we've got all of the influences of a regional perspective and our inability to lack or to access sort of metropolitan resources, training, those staffing things, yet we're paying the same rates as everyone else. So lots of sort of unique pressures that exist for us, and also just wanting to kind of amplify the voices of and the wants and needs of our female business ownership community. So, and really learn from one another. So the association started, we're now 3 years old. We do a number of things. One is we've got an advocacy arm that we talk about. So learning about what our community wants and how we can advocate for them. And that changes all the time, but we talk a lot about sort of like basic infrastructure stuff. How can we get people more connected if they're isolated on the peninsula, or they've got issues that they're coming up with. We've just expanded into Frankston City. We meet with our local representatives, local government councillors, state MPs, federal MPs. Those are relationships that we've really nurtured and enjoy. We work with our members on an individual level. What are you experiencing? How can we help advocate? How can we connect you to those decision makers that can help you press your matter forward? We have a storytelling program, which we believe is really critical to sort of further connecting these female-run businesses with our community. So how can we talk about the work that we're doing and talk about how we're all connected? Our businesses, to become a member, they have to reflect some sort of community or ESG sort of program. So they have an environment, social governance model that is connected to doing good in the community. So we want to share those stories. And that was an outcome of COVID, right? Identifying how we are so interconnected, business and community, and wanted to sort of further connect that. We run programs we do a really amazing International Women's Day event every month where we bring in, lots of really incredible speakers, but we connect with ideas from not just women in leadership, but also like women that are experiencing hardship, escaping family violence. How can we kind of promote them and connect with them? I think really, we do learning workshops and well-being workshops as well. But I think one of the things that we really do very well and that we talk about a lot is just how we kind of continue to strengthen female voices, and particularly in things like the hospitality industry, where again the male perspective is so dominant. And I think, if I were going to be really honest, I think has not done the industry any favors over the years. That there's a real need for the feminine perspective and things that women do really beautifully, like lead with empathy and create sort of really nurturing workplaces. I'm really excited to be part of a growing community of not just women, but men as well in our industry that are talking about the importance of shifting that. And yeah, that's what we do at Women in Business, and we do in our business and in conversations like this.
Yes, and that's wonderful, because I know when I started up, 30 years ago, there were no women's groups, or there were, maybe a handful of a few women that, would come together, but it was always, doing everything alone, and seeing over the years how many more women in business, collaborating with men in the industry as well, who really support and nurture this idea that we need both sides to, look at the design of buildings, looking at the setting, with me working predominantly with the registered club industry, then looking at the restaurants and the dining spaces, and how what is the aesthetics to that, and then what's the menu, and it just continues on. And we need both voices to be heard, to have that diversity around the table and for businesses to grow. But it sounds like you have an amazing group of women there that are engaged, and they're not just going, look, I'd love to be with this part of the group because, well, I don't know anybody else, but they have to have those values and continue to grow and give back, which is wonderful. So I think we could talk all afternoon, Melissa, but I've got one last question. Can you share a success story or an example where your advocacy for women in business has led to a significant positive change within the industry?
Sure. I was trying to think about something specific that we've done. I think one of the things that we do really well is we, like I said, amplify the voices of our members and of our community. And we see that through the incremental ways in which our region is talking more about the importance of our business community and about women in business. One of our members was recently elected to federal parliament. So that's really exciting. She has been a member of ours since the beginning and ran a local charity partner that we were involved with. So she's the member for Frankston. That's Jody Bellier. Another of our members, and she's actually a board member, is our local counselor. So we really connect with, like I said, women in not just business but leadership, and try and sort of amplify their voices. And we've got members all over the place that are award-winning, that are doing really incredible things in their industries, from food, hospitality, distilleries. We have the president of Australia's Distillers Association, the first female president of Australian Distillers Association, in our membership. And I think we continue to sort of, we participated in the economic development strategic plan at our local government. So we are amplifying their voices. We are involved in a network of associations that are really advocating for our region. And I see that through the policy changes that are coming out across our region in the way that they're talking about what we do. So it's very exciting.
And there must be other regions, throughout Australia that look at what you've accomplished there with your Women in Business MP and would love to learn more from you about, well, how do we create this space for the hospitality industry, particularly in regional areas? So I'm sure they can reach out to you, Melissa. And
yeah, so that is womeninbusiness.org.au. And they can learn more about the association there. They can get in touch. Love to chat to anybody. I know, I have in the past gone looking for associations that are specifically reaching out to women in hospitality. And I think there's a real gap of voices there that can be doing a little bit more. So I'd love to connect with those groups as well.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, I'll put all those show notes in with all those links in the show notes for everybody to connect with you. Melissa, it's been wonderful having this conversation with you. As I said, I know we could talk for many more hours about what you're doing within the industry for women, but also the values that hold strong there at Red Gum BBQ. So thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful having you on as a guest.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. And if you've enjoyed this episode and you don't want to miss out on any future ones, please subscribe. And if you really loved it, I would love you to leave a review. To find out more, go to michellepascoe.com.